Hello, and welcome to our first look into the data management overview of the REACH program. My name is Angel Ramos, and I am the data manager for the Rosen Carter Institute for Caregiving. Today we'll be discussing the use of data standards and procedures to manage one's data. But before we begin, I think it's important to outline a few key concepts about the data collection process. Our first step is to establish data standards to facilitate report generation and comparability across studies, sites, and time periods. And we do this by providing datasets, assessment schedule, data instruments, data tools, data outcomes, the data collection process, procedures for missing data, analysis, and procedures for reporting. For the RCI REACH data collection process, the datasets that we use is for caregivers and care receivers. And the assessment schedule is for pre and post data. We have over 10 data instruments that we use. Some of them you'll be using is the caregiver questionnaire, risk priority inventory, the Zaret burden scale, health behaviors, desire to institutionalize, behavior checklists, the scale for depression, which is the CSD-10, self-advocacy questionnaire, 14-item safety walkthrough of home, and there's two additional forms, which is the primary caregiver participation information form, and one for the person with dementia. The data tools that we'll be using is we need to establish key identifiers. You'll be using a data dictionary, and then you'll have to decide which data management system you would want to use to store your data, either Microsoft Access or Microsoft Excel or a network database. My recommendation for the easiest process would be to use the Microsoft Excel spreadsheet, which we will be providing a template for you to use. Um, the data outcomes that we'll be looking for pre and post scores is desired burden, the depression scale, desire to institutionalize, caregiver health, and caregiver bothered by problem behaviors. Um, Once you have a decide on what data management system you'll be using, you need to establish a data collection process where you're going to need to store your data, who's going to be providing the data entry, how are you going to back up your data, what type of data checks are you going to have, are you going to check it weekly, daily, monthly. You're going to need to establish a procedure for missing data. My recommendation is to leave it blank because it's easier um, to work with at the end for analysis. You can also insert 99 as a variable uh, to represent missing data, or you can use the intent to treat method. Um, if you're going to want to do further analysis besides pre and post scores and see what improvement are the means are, you're going to want to invest in a statistical analysis software. For the RCI, we use SPSS. And then you're going to want to decide how you're going to do your reporting. Are you going to do it monthly for RCI? We do monthly reporting for all our sites, and the data is due on the first of every month. For the purposes of this project, we are asking the sites, they're going to need to collect data, compare mean scores across time periods, and send a data summary to the RCI. To do this, sites will need to coordinate the data entry, storage, management of their data collection process with their staff. For reporting, we're asking sites to report the number of TIs, T1s, which are the pretests, to the T2s, and their mean scores. Um, for Zaret burden score, for CSD-10, desire to institutionalize, caregiver health, and caregiver bothered by problem behaviors. When you're working with the spreadsheet for collecting your data, you need to establish key identifiers. And the first one would be the how to identify each client or caregiver. Um, for RCI, we assign them within a range for each site. For instance, for site one, we assign each client from 101 to 199. Maybe that's something that you would want to do for your site. And then another identifier would be the counselor initials. You'll also be working with what's called a data dictionary. It's an account of how data is stored in the database. This is an example that you see right here. For the data dictionary, we list the variable description that clearly identifies the contents of the field. Some of the variable names are listed, and the variable names are the field names. For example, for the risk priority inventory, it would be RPI1. Date of birth would be abbreviated to DOB. Same thing for the CSD1. This would be the abbreviation for the depression scale. Also listed on the data dictionary is the variable data type. Will you be working with numeric data, text, character, or dates? And then also the values are presented of how the values would be coded. For instance, for race categories, um, the numerical value 1 would represent white, 2 would represent black, 3 would represent Native Americans, 4 would represent Asian, and 5 would represent others. Same thing when you're working with gender variables. 1 would represent male and 2 would represent female. Also, you're gonna if you don't have a vast knowledge of working within Excel, you're gonna want to invest or search out for a quick reference guide. I've listed the following address, which is a good quick reference.